So I have the pleasure now, we've done a little bit of things differently this year, and we've tapped into mindfulness and mental health. And that has become, with COVID, it's always been a big issue, but it's become more of an issue, especially with our patients who are isolated and stressed because of all the changes. And we investigated mindfulness a little bit, and we had an excellent webinar with Dr. Linda Carlson. And we are now so pleased to introduce Dr. Timothy Walker. And he is a mindfulness teacher and psychotherapist working in Halifax. And he has in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Hi, Timothy. And he has 40 years of experience of integrating mindfulness into counseling, education, and healthcare. We're very happy he is here. He has written books, and he's co-founded a foundation, the Healing and Cancer Foundation, with Dr. Rob Rutledge. And he and Rob designed the skills for healing weekend retreats for people living with cancer and their family members. And he's taught this in cities across North America. He was a student of meditation since 1979. He's received both an MA and PhD in the psychology of meditation. And in his private practice, the Healing Circle, Timothy sees individuals, couples, and families, and is open to distant consultations by phone or internet. So this is a very valuable, I am a proponent of mind, body, soul healing and health. And I think cancer patients really need to investigate all of that so they can be healthy as a whole person. So Timothy, I'm so happy you're going to join us here today and speak to that. Thank you.
Great. I'm very happy to be here too. I'm grateful for Kidney Cancer Canada for inviting me, and I want to feel all of you out there and connect with all of you, and I'm very privileged to be here. You know, I always like to start by acknowledging that every one of you has tremendous life experience and tremendous wisdom garnered through a life of ups and downs, because we all experience stress and difficult times, and your family members as well. With a cancer diagnosis, and during this time of COVID especially, you know, there can be a lot more stress, and cancer can tend to dominate your life once you've received a cancer diagnosis, and your mind can get kind of hooked into it, and you feel sort of pursued by it. I have a very good friend who recently in Toronto had his kidney removed because he had kidney cancer, and he's recuperating now slowly, and we talk every couple of weeks, and very good friend of mine. So I feel for you, you know. And so I'm really grateful too that I've worked with Dr. Rutledge over the last 21 years. We started in 1999 in Halifax and then spread all over the country, teaching mindfulness in the Skills for Healing weekend retreats that we've been doing since '99. We've done 50 of them, and we've had wonderful experiences with people with all kinds of cancer. And normally I'm teaching what I want to teach you all today in a whole weekend, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. But I want to give you the highlights at least, and learn more about mindfulness. And it's amazing, over the last 20 years, there's been tremendous psychoneurological research into the power of working with your mind and what we call self-directed neuroplasticity, that you can actually change tremendous things. So you can do a lot to benefit yourself. And Rob is always saying, Cancer Dr. Rob, that I work with, that you can work towards a cure with your own intention and your own purposeful mind. So using your mind and learning to work with self-regulation, learning to lower the chronic stress and the worries and the perseverating about your cancer, and helping to find some peace, because I believe that deep within our hearts, we all have this tremendous resource of wisdom, compassion, love that we can access for healing ourselves, healing our families and our communities. So whether you're a caregiver or a family member or a person with cancer, there's a lot that you can do that benefits you. And if you get on that track, it's just a wonderful journey to learn about meditation and mindfulness and to work with your mind in order to feel better for a better quality of life. Or, as Rob says, you can cure yourself, you know? So there is tremendous potential, and the research is just coming in more and more, how much our body-mind state and our spirit influences our health. So we can do something that makes a difference, and that's why we're talking about this today. So I'd like to start with, I'll be talking about stress and the issues of stress, and then we'll look into mindfulness, and then later on, and then we'll do some practice, so body scan and some settling, and then working with the heart. We talk a lot about self-compassion in mindfulness, and there's a woman who's written a beautiful book on self-compassion, Dr. Kristen Neff, and I'll be reviewing some of that information as well. So mindfulness always has these two aspects. There's the awareness, being in the present moment, paying attention, training your mind to de-stress and calm and be more awake and alert and to access your higher brain function. When we calm ourselves down, we actually get out of what I call the dinosaur brain and the limbic system, the mammalian brain, and we get into the neo-mammalian brain, which is our human brain, which has to do with language and then we can access this connection between our head and our heart, and we feel love and connection, and we can move towards healing. But when we're in a state of panic, it's hard to do that. And we talk about the dinosaur brain, the limbic system, the emotional brain, and the neocortex and frontal lobe. And what happens when you get upset sometimes, we regress and we flip our lid and we're left with the more primitive brain. So learning how to self-regulate our nervous system has a tremendously powerful effect on the quality of life and your ability to heal. So let's go in and talk more about stress now. I will turn on the presentation. Mona can help me here. I'm gonna share my screen. Is that working? And then I'm gonna go up here. Whoops. Still, this is dominating. So I wanna share the screen without, are you seeing? There we go. I think I'm there. So stress,
I think you're good.
And optimal well-being. And thank you to Mona for helping me make this look good. So let's contemplate this for a moment. Albert Einstein. If I can read the whole thing, I'm going to get rid of this. The world we have made as a result of the thinking we have done thus far creates problems we cannot solve at the same level at which we created them. So the human mind is very complex, and I think a lot of the problems we have to do with how complex our brains are. And so we can get ourselves tied up in knots, and we need to develop different ways, which is what mindfulness is all about, in order to think differently and to perceive differently. Whoops, now I'm not moving forward. So what is stress? A condition in which individual perceives the demands of the situation as exceeding their resources. So what is the key word in there? I'm listening and I'm hearing people all over Canada say perceives, perception, because we perceive things based on our conditioning. And when we put something out there, we end up not perceiving what is, we end up perceiving what we think is going on often. So just to clarify some of the simple wording in the language, the vocabulary of stress, the stressor is something that's happening, actually really happening in the environment. If the tiger's chasing you, that's very stressful. Then there's the perception of the situation. Sometimes it's something that we're just imagining that's causing our stress. But the word stress itself has to do with our physiological reaction in the body. What's happening in the body? And we're going to talk a lot about that now. So the pathways to stress, it can be a real threat. You're jumping out of the way of a car, or you're running from a tiger. And this is deeply ingrained in our nervous system over millions of years of evolution. So it's a very deeply ingrained. And it can also be a perceived threat to your life. You're worrying about your test results. You're worrying about your children who are in different places during COVID. You worry about things that can kick in the stress reaction, and when we're in the dinosaur brain and in the emotional brain, spinning and spinning. And then there's also ego and social threats. It's like when you get in a fight with your spouse about who's doing more housework, and also like public speaking. You can feel adrenaline rush and feel frightened, have a stress reaction. And then there's fear of the unknown. Those test results, we don't know what's coming up. Year after year, is my cancer coming back? Your job, your relationships, retirement, the unknown, the future. So stress starts in the brain, triggers sympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system. So there's two branches. There's the parasympathetic branch, rest and digest, which has to do with maintaining our health. And then there's running away from a tiger, which is the sympathetic nervous system. And the stress hormones are released, and it pumps sugar and fats into the blood, affects every cell of your body. Some of the hormones, adrenaline, we all know what that feels like when you get a little bit shaky and you get butterflies in your belly, and then it releases cortisol, and more sugar and insulin are released into the bloodstream so that you can run away from the tiger. And cholesterol is released into the bloodstream, and sex hormones are decreased. We're better off in rest and digest for that function. So psychologically, we experience fear, anxiety, heart rate goes up, and this is a physiological reaction that we can learn to override with self-directed neuroplasticity. So we have increased mental activity to try to figure out how to escape this dangerous situation. We have increased emotional intensity and sensitivity. You know, when you're maybe in a fight with someone and you trigger each other, and your sense of decency can go out the window as we say things that we might regret. And then there's a decrease in cognitive function. You flip your lid and you're not really, you can't access memory, planning, rational thinking. You just go into the emotional brain. Then there's cardiovascular changes, increase in heart rate, blood pressure, increase in blood clotting factor, increase in sweating, increase in respiratory rate, increase in tension of all the muscles, digestion slows down, stops. This is a really important point, is that all the organs that are maintaining sort of our regular health, including our kidneys and all the digestive organs, are operating optimally when we're in rest and digest. When we go into fight or flight, if you think of a rabbit that's running away from a fox, it doesn't need to digest its food at that moment. It just needs to save its life. So it's running at full speed. All the energy goes into the legs and arms to run away or to fight, and not to digest. So all the systems of basic maintenance of health shut down. So then we get into chronic stress, and this is a very important graph here. From early in life, even babies are crying when they're upset, and they're going through a stress reaction out of fear. Is mommy coming back? And where's the milk? And so that intense feeling throughout our life, we'll experience these different, and then you go to school, and then they have exams, and life is tough, and there's bullies, etc. Everybody has different situations. But gradually, these different situations cause us stress. And then if we don't learn how to settle ourselves back into the deep relaxation, then we just keep climbing up that stress ladder. And we end up in our 40s and 50s, we can be in a state of trapped in high gear and in a constant state of chronic stress. So learning about deep relaxation and learning how to monitor your nervous system and self-regulate your nervous system is essential to well-being and health and to happiness. So chronic stress affects all systems of the body. It affects can cause diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, mutes the normal stress reaction, so you don't have the energy that you need when you need it. Chronic fatigue syndrome lowers immune function, susceptible to infection. Inflammatory diseases is very important. It increases inflammatory response when we're in a state of fight or flight. And it damages the brain function. The brain can't function that well, and actually chemicals are being released that cause damage to your brain when you're in chronic stress. Whoops. skipped one. So we can be irritable, depressed, we have poor concentration, anxiety, poor sleep and fatigue, vicious circle. And here's the circle. Poor sleep, irritable, any other stressors in life, then that's more stress in your body, which causes poor sleep, irritable. And then this one here, you have chronic stress, it deteriorates your brain and your body, you're more irritable, depressed, you have health problems, that causes social functioning that fails and fighting with people and difficult relationships, more stress, etc. So System and Runaway, this is a great philosopher that I study with. The major problems in the world are a result of the differences between how nature works, which includes our bodies, and the way people think. So we've developed this kind of disconnection between our mind and our body, and we need to move towards creating a sense of connection between mind and body, that they can learn from each other. So just to examine for yourself for a moment, what are your own triggers of stress in your life? And what happens in your body? What is that feeling of fear and fight or flight when you feel the adrenaline? And then what emotions do you feel? Anger, sadness, withdrawal, giving up, hope, depressed. What happens to your thinking? Often people will think very, very fast and cycle through thoughts. And what kinds of thoughts do you have? Sometimes they can be thoughts that actually make things worse. We project terrible scenarios into the future when we really don't know. What do you say to yourself and how do you label the situation? So we can actually get a lot of stress just by the way that we think about our situation. Antidote to stress, mindfulness is very helpful. And for almost 40, 50 years now, there's been mindfulness teaching. John Kabat-Zinn started at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center, and I studied with him in the 90s. So you notice and you're aware. You bring yourself back into the present moment. And we'll be working a little bit later with belly breathing, which is a kind of yogic way of bringing yourself back into the parasympathetic, into the rest and digest. And then you ask yourself, is this threat real? So you're questioning your assumed perception. You reassure yourself, I'm safe. Remember to relax. You have a choice. So exercise is also very helpful for burning off stress and for chronic stress. Burns off the sugars and the fat, strengthens the heart, more energy, you have better sleep. Exercise, 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 Rob is always saying, is so good for everyone with cancer and without cancer. It really lowers and raises your ability to fight cancer, lowers your susceptibility to the cancer. But yet, eventually, exercises, a lot of people use it like a pressure valve. They build up the stress and then they exercise and they feel better. And then they build up more stress. So we want to learn to actually build up less chronic stress in our bodies over time. And if we do both, then we can be more healthy. So breathe to stop the stress reaction. Then you're going to change from your sympathetic to the parasympathetic into the rest and digest, from the stress reaction to the relaxation response. So mindfulness is paying attention in the present moment, being in the present moment with your senses alive, tuning in. There's such beauty in the world with the fall colors, etc. There's things that we can notice in every detail, and it's removing that sense of judgment. I don't like this. As soon as we think I don't like this, we're disconnecting from reality and we're fighting with reality. When we just accept and work with things as they are, that's the most intelligent way to go forward. So there is a part of our brain that can experience things without judging them and saying, I want that to go away. But we have to train ourselves to get back to that. Relaxing with what is now, bringing attention back into the here and now, letting go of the tendency to escape. We often escape into entertainment, we escape into thinking about things. If we can stay present, we can marshal all of our resources to be healthy. So we can move beyond concept and move into actual truth of experience, joining our senses, experiencing without editing or exaggerating, being awake. These are the 7 attitudes of mindfulness that are in John Kabat-Zinn's book: non-judging, patience, beginner's mind, trusting in yourself and your own perception, non-striving, so not trying so hard, but just going with the flow, acceptance and letting go of struggle. I think I'll send you a more complete version of that you can share with everyone. So just a little more science around mindfulness. They found with a lot of neurological research that over time, mindfulness practice actually shrinks the amygdala portion of the brain, the part responsible for fight or flight reaction. While at the same time, it can upregulate the higher order prefrontal cortex regions of the brain, the part responsible for concentration, decision-making, and executive function. So we actually increase the gray matter, the insula, which has to do with body-mind awareness, this word interoception, paying attention to your body. I always tell people it's boring, but it's really effective at transforming your brain and your brain-body connection. Self-awareness, empathy, and emotions. Learning emotional intelligence. Mindfulness is the first thing to do in learning emotional intelligence. So it also increases our visual and spatial memory, establishing context, inhibiting the amygdala, we talked about that, and the cortisol, the stress reaction. And it increases our executive function in the prefrontal cortex, attention and control. So it reduces cortical thinning and aging. So this is, in terms of as we age, it's really beneficial to practice mindfulness and meditation. Increased activation of the left prefrontal regions, which lifts our mood, makes you feel better. And we'll move into maybe talking about hardwiring happiness. Increased gamma range brain waves may be associated with integration and with intelligence and a sense of connectedness with all of reality. Preserved telomere length, and that's a very deep thing about our genes that actually increases our longevity. So here's an interesting point, is that all stress is not necessarily bad, and that, like athletes, this is really a kind of graph that athletes use. That green zone is if you can learn to accommodate and work with the stress and regard it as positive, then you move into that green zone. When it goes beyond that, it goes into the chronic stress and the pain of stress. But when you can kind of work with that green zone, you feel really good and alive, and lots of good things happen in the body. So you change your attitude. I'm excited, rather than I have to get out of this state of stress. And this releases DHEA, which helps you to learn in the stressful situation. It also, when you can reframe stress, you get oxytocin, you get dopamine, increases optimism, dampens fears. So it's all about how you relate to your stress. And you do that with mindfulness and with a good mental attitude. You can learn to work with it in a way that actually increases all these positive neurotransmitters. So therefore, we can use stress like a wind in our sails. Even when the wind is blowing directly in the direction that we want to go, if we use our sails and the keel, we can sail in the direction we want to go, even in the midst of a stressful situation. So with that, I think I'll come back to myself here. If I can know how to do that, I'll stop sharing for a moment. And how's our timing? We got about 10, 15 minutes or more?
I think we have about 15 minutes, and then we'll allow for a few minutes for questions. So that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. And because I would like to get back to self-compassion, and that's a PowerPoint as well. But so with respect to stress, and then what I'd like to do now is just guide people through a little bit of mindfulness exercise, and also through a little bit of self-compassion and what I call warming up the heart, learning to connect with this healing power that we have within our hearts. So wherever you are and whatever kind of situation you're in, if you're seated in a chair or if you're lying in a lounger, whatever situation you're in, tune into your posture and what you're feeling in your body. And just take a kind of, if you're sitting up straight, you could sit up straight. If you're lying down, that's fine too. We'll do a little bit of a body scan. First, we want to connect with the feeling of being on the earth. Sometimes when our mind is spinning and our emotions are raging and we're in the state of fight or flight, we don't even know that our feet are on the ground. We don't recognize that we have earth. And when we connect with just an instant of connecting with gravity and earth, grounds our emotional energy. So if you like, you can close your eyes or you can keep them open if you like, and just tune into that feeling of, how do I know I'm on the earth? Where do you feel that connection, that grounding energy of gravity? In your legs, in your feet, in your bum on the seat, your back, the weight of your body. And then tune into the feeling inside your body. How do you know that you're alive? You feel your heartbeat? You feel energy in your body? And then we can tune into the breath. So many meditations use the breath as a focal point for the mind. Just notice your breathing. On the in-breath, there's a feeling of expansion. On the out-breath, there's a feeling of letting go and relaxation. And breath is our life force. When we're tuning into the breath, you're joining your consciousness with your life force. And that has in itself a very powerful effect on health and healing. You're paying attention to your life as it's being lived, not as a concept, but as a reality. I'm breathing. It's helpful also to have a sense of gratitude. Mindfulness is, I always say, is the opposite of taking things for granted. So when we experience gratitude for each breath, I'm alive, that enhances that life energy. There's a good feeling that comes with that. And then there's this rhythm of the breath, and the breathing out is the relaxation phase. And I'll ask everybody, maybe for a moment, we'll teach about diaphragmatic belly breathing. Put one hand on your belly and one up on your chest. And just notice how you breathe for a moment. What are the muscles that move? Where does your body move when you breathe? Generally, when we're in fight or flight, it's like when we're exercising or running. We're running away from the tiger, we breathe in the upper chest. But when we're in rest and digest, the parasympathetic nervous system, the chest is still, and all the breathing is done in the lower abdomen. So literally, your belly expands on the in-breath like a balloon, and it slowly retreats as you breathe out. So this kind of breathing, your diaphragm is that sheet of tissue below your lungs, and it works like a bellows. As you push down onto the organs in your lower abdomen, it creates a bellows and creates a vacuum that draws air into the lungs. This is the most efficient way to breathe, and the way that we are generally need to be breathing 80% of the time in our day. And then when we get a little stress, we breathe more deeply in the chest. But this is a very efficient way to breathe because the blood pools at the base of the lungs. But a lot of people who've experienced like PTSD or fear of their cancer or in chronic stress are constantly breathing in the upper chest. And this kind of shallow breathing also is really not good for our health. So gradually retraining ourselves. And when I work with people who've had trauma, it takes a lot of work to loosen up the diaphragm and learn how. So when you breathe in, the hand that's on your, over your belly button, push into that hand that's over your belly button. So you're pushing your belly button into your hand, and then relax and let go as you breathe out. Breathing in, you expand the belly. Breathing out, long, slow out breath, relax and let go. Give in to gravity. Feel your body on the earth. This kind of breathing regulates the nervous system and brings it back to rest and digest, where we maintain our health and all the organs can work at optimal functioning. When we go into fight or flight, everything kind of shuts down and we're just running from the tiger. So learning to breathe this way shifts you. You are hacking into your nervous system and learning how to calm your nervous system. So I do this with every single client that I work with. It's the most fundamental thing. When you work with the physiology, then you can work with the psychology. So continue, you can let your hands go for if you like, and just continue to work with that belly breathing for a moment. And as you do, feel the breath leaving your nostrils, dissolving into the space in front of you. Long, slow out breath. Belly expands on the in-breath. Relax and let go with the out-breath. We start to deal with the physiology of stress. We start to settle. Then we can deal with the psychology, working with your mind. So we're mindful of the body with mindfulness meditation, the breath, and the mind. And a lot of people misunderstand. We're not trying to get rid of thoughts. We're not trying to enter into a space where there's no thoughts and you're just floating in the sky. Actually, what we're trying to do is learn how to be the master of our thoughts rather than the slave of our thoughts. Rather than your thoughts running your life, you choose how to run your life and what's good and what's bad and what you like and what you don't. There's a sense of accessing a deeper level of intelligence that's not conditioned by concept and thinking. So when you're noticing your breath, feel the breath, feel your body. Your body and your breath are an anchor for your mind. The mind has a tendency to wander all over the place. And when we notice that, when you notice that you're thinking and going, oh, meditation is blah, 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 and you're talking to yourself, you can just simply say thinking. Label it thinking. Come back to the feeling of the breath, the feeling of your body, and that feeling of breathing deep into the lower abdomen. Relax and let go as you breathe out. So this is a very powerful, and when you learn to let go of the thinking, then you have the power to not be controlled by your thoughts. And we can add to that, because mindfulness has two wings of the bird. There's the intelligence and the wisdom aspect. The second wing is compassion. So tuning in, if you like, for a moment, put your hand over your heart and just tune into what you feel there. As you're working with breathing and letting go of thoughts, being in the body, coming into the present, on the earth, what do you feel in your heart? As we begin to access the wisdom of the heart and the love in your heart, it's almost like there's a tender, sweet, vulnerable sadness. It's very palpable, poignant. And if you like, we can enhance that. Think of someone that you love, your children, a friend of yours, maybe someone else who's struggling with cancer, kidney cancer, a friend. Think of someone that you really love and that you want them to be happy, you want them to heal, you want their life to be good. And you just, as if you could see them in front of you, imagine that your heart is like the sun rising in the morning. And you send that love like the sunshine into their heart with a wish, may you be happy, may your life be fulfilling, may your journey be good. And as you send that, like the light is spilling into every cell of your body, as that sun is shining, it's also sending love to you. Notice that. And then we can focus on loving yourself. As that sun in your heart radiates love to every cell of your body, it brings healing and goodness, peace, contentment, well-being. I love and accept myself just as I am, here and now in this very moment. And if we add to that a little smile, when we send love to our friend, it feels good to send love. So you can smile. Literally, you can lift the corners of your mouth, smile in your eyes, and smile even in your heart. And send love, send that light. And as you send it to others, your children, your friends, remember to send it to yourself. And to the place where you need healing. May I heal in the way that I need to be healed. May I love myself 24/7. And then we can let go of that visualization or effort to send love. You can let your hand drop and just take a moment and breathe and be present. Noticing thinking and letting it go. Feeling your body and your breath as an anchor for your consciousness. Good. Thank you. Like I said, it's in 45 minutes, I'm trying to give you a whole weekend.
I know. And you have done so well. Thank you.
Is there how much time do we have? Should we just go to questions?
Is there anything that you'd like to end with, Timothy? Any message? I do have a couple of questions, but is there any important message you'd like to end with?
Well, I think that I would just say that as starting back in 99, when I developed this mindfulness program that we call the Skills for Healing Weekend Retreat, I was teaching mindfulness, and then almost immediately I realized that people, what they needed was self-love. And that we realized that as we wrote our book and we got stories of hundreds of people with cancer, the theme that we found over and over again was people being there for everyone else and not being there for themselves. And that it's okay to love yourself. You know, we have a culture that has said no to that, but that's what I call a mind virus. That it's actually, and I'm going to add, you can have these slides, and the next set of slides has to do with self-compassion in Christian Neff's book. And there's been a lot of research since then, and it is so important to take time every day to love yourself and to develop that as a pattern. That is so healing. So that's my main message.
Well, thank you. And that is a very important message.
Yeah.
And I think that's one that Kidney Cancer Canada would like to build on. That's something that I've learned. It took me a long time, but it's something I've learned, and it is such an important part of the whole healing process.
Yes.
So I thank you so much for sharing that all with us today. And I want to let everybody know that this will be on our website. So when they feel the need, they can come back and have a visit with you and take a few deep breaths and be calmer. I have to say I was very stressed when we started, but I'm feeling really good now. So thank you.
Yeah.
And I'd just like to ask a question. I think people beat themselves up when they start with meditation because they think that they're supposed to be in their mind. And but I think you did what is called a guided meditation. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it makes it so much easier for people to listen. It's okay to listen to somebody else, right?
Yeah. 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 So I have a lot of guided meditations on my website, and on our
Okay.
website, that's thehealingcircle.ca, which is named after our book, The Healing Circle. And then there's also
Okay.
guided meditations on a lot of videos and a lot of different things on healingandcancer.org, the
Okay.
Healing and Cancer Foundation. And so guided meditation is a great way to begin. And there's all these
Mhm.
apps. There's Mindspace or Headspace, I think it's called, and lots and lots of apps that you
Mhm.
can get that just stop, take 2 minutes, listen to a guided meditation, and then go back to your life. And that can be very
Mhm.
helpful. Eventually, it's good to learn how to discipline yourself, because then
Yes.
you're creating your own mental patterns that bring
Mhm.
meditation as a normal everyday experience. And but integrate as much guided as you can, and then move towards your own practice. But I think you bring up a really important point too, is that we're so hard on ourselves, and when people start meditating, that being hard on yourself just gets multiplied by 100. So it's recognizing that we're not trying to get rid of thoughts. We're not trying to
Mhm.
enter necessarily a peaceful state. It could be a difficult meditation, but when it's
Mhm.
a difficult meditation, it's actually, you feel better afterwards because it's
Yeah.
like one Zen teacher said, it's like wringing out the dirty cloth. Oh,
Mhm.
then you feel much better. So
Mhm.
it's really a process that's making you more healthy in your life, rather
Mhm.
than while you're doing it, it sometimes feels good, but not necessarily. But the important thing
Right.
is to recognize that you don't have to do it perfectly. It's a practice. And if you
Yes.
learn piano, you don't know how to play the piano at first. And then
Yeah.
over many, many years, you become an expert.
Mhm. Very
Yeah.
good. I'll just check with Mona. We invite the audience that we do have a chat or questions, and you're welcome to submit your question for Timothy. Mona, do we have anything from the audience?
Yes, comments from Mona, not me, another Mona, who says that was a fantastic session. Thank you for starting the conference in such a positive and grounded way. And then there is Russell that says, very helpful in building resiliency to be resilient. Thank you for your healing self-love messaging. Also, although virtual forum, this is real.
Right.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. I'm so glad that we're getting a response. I do have somebody that has asked, they're asking about cost, but I mean, I guess you can buy into some sort of program, but relatively it's free, is it not?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of access to meditation that's all free. And everything's free on my website. Everything's free on the healingandcancer.org website. And I'm going to send some extra things, the 7 attitudes of mindfulness. I'll send that to you guys, and the PowerPoint slides. People can go over those. And I'll send you a bunch of different things that people can use. There's something called compassionate abiding, working with difficult emotions. That's very
Mhm.
helpful. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot that's available for free. John
That's
Kabat-Zinn is,
great.
and Tara Brach. I always recommend that people listen to Tara Brach's podcasts. There's other
Okay.
podcasts. This guy, can't remember his name. It's 10% Happier is the name of his
I
podcast.
do know that website. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm familiar with it.
there's a lot of good stuff available on the internet, and then there's some stuff that's questionable. But after a
Mhm.
while, you get a good nose for knowing what's
For what's
real
right. Mhm.
in mindfulness.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah,
I will say thank you so much for sharing all this information with us on our website. It will be available for our patient community. And honestly, Timothy, this is something that I'm very passionate about, and I hope that the audience is enjoying it as well. And Kidney Cancer Canada would like to build on mindfulness and stress relief going into 2021. That's something that we really hope to expand on a little bit for our patient and caregiver community, because I really truly believe it's beneficial. Yeah, Mona, did you have a comment?
Yes, so it's a comment from me. I think meditation is a process. It is something to learn and can be hard. We could ask a close friend for encouragements. Also, your point of being grounded. I find walking barefoot really helps me.
Sweet.
Yes.
We're entering into Canada where it's a little harder, but it's wonderful to walk in the summer barefoot. Maybe in the fall.
I don't think our participants out there in Alberta are going to be walking barefoot. I think they're contending with a little bit of snow right now. Yeah. Well, Timothy, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you coming. This has been such a valuable session for myself and all our patients and caregivers. I hope that we can connect with you again. And once again, I truly appreciate everything that you're going to share with us. It's going to be so beneficial for all of us. Thank you very much.
I'll send an email to Mona and she'll spread it out to everybody. Good.
She'll work her magic. Yeah, she will.
Okay. Very great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.